Welcome back, everyone, to On Point. This episode, I'll be talking about my mule deer trip to Idaho with Jeff, my stepdad, and we basically went over there. First time, him and I both had tags and gone mule deer hunting together. It took way too long for this to happen, but it's the first time we've ever gone on a hunt like this together, and had a great time. But we pretty much got our asses kicked. For 6 or 7 days straight, pretty much. So I will get into that. But today is the day after Thanksgiving, and I hope that you guys all had a fantastic, great, safe Thanksgiving, spending time with people that you love, eating great food. And I know I did, and it was just awesome. And still probably going to have to hit the gym after this to work off some of that excess food that I definitely gorged myself with. But yeah, so it's been about a month after I got back from Idaho. And basically, we went over there to the same area we went 2 years prior. And I rifle hunted this with my dad, passed up a buck that I probably definitely should not have passed up now that I know the area and what the area contains. About 150-inch buck, should definitely not have passed that up. And so I went there knowing that I probably need to shoot the first 150 I see, if I see one. But we went over there, same area, and we were going to just hunt hard and not commit to an area that wasn't holding deer. If we were seeing deer, we would stay there. If we were seeing bucks, we would stay there. But we basically just said, we're going to move around, not going to overcommit to anywhere. And then that was going to be the game plan. But we're going to start where I know there's deer. Doesn't matter what the weather's doing. There's going to be deer here. And so there's a kind of a residential population. We're not relying on the migration. But we also went towards the end of October. And why I did that is because I wanted the rut to start. I wanted the bucks to start appearing. I wanted them to start chasing, start thinking about the rut, and I wanted the weather to give us a better chance of moving the deer down, or the colder weather to get the deer movement up. And I just think that, I was trying to stack the deck in my favor, going as late as I could. Having said that, the weather actually really wasn't that big of a factor. I saw just as much deer on the warm days, nice days, and actually I probably saw more because I was able to hunt harder and hunt better than versus the 40 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour rain and just freaking cold. And man, I'll tell you, if you're going to hunt down low, you might as well just go early because you're not waiting on the weather to push the deer out. And these deer were out feeding on the hot days, on the cool days. It didn't really matter. I was just able to hunt harder on a nicer day. So hindsight, if you're going to go late and hunt high, but if you're hunting low, it doesn't really matter when you go. I'd actually probably go opening week and have those nicer bucks that haven't hopefully been shot, because who knows what's been shot before 2 weeks have passed. So anyways, we get over there, and the plan was to hunt an area and camp exactly where we did last time. And my cousin was over there with a buddy. We were going to meet up with them, and they had to actually end up leaving early. But we got one solid day in where I got to hunt with my cousin, and he killed a really nice 4-point, probably a 140, 145-inch buck, somewhere in there. Good buck, not one that it's not what I went to Idaho for. Like if I would have saw that, I probably would have passed on him knowing where he was at. Bubba was wanting to head home that day, so he shot it and helped pack it out. I think it was about 5 miles, but I forget. And it was an absolute shit show for weather. I mean, as soon as he shot that thing, the weather system moved in and didn't move out for 2 or 3 days. But I got some videos of the pack out. It's pretty hardcore. Put my rain gear to the test, put my new boots to the test, and everything failed me. My boots were not waterproof. They were supposed to be waterproof. And to be truthful, this is the second time I bought this model of boot. It was the Crispy Nevada Gore-Tex model. They were insulated. I didn't get the insulated model last time. I kind of want to see just what the insulated model was in colder weather. It was more than enough. I probably could have easily got away with the lighter uninsulated version, but they leaked. My rain gear leaked. My rain pants, my rain jackets. I had the First Light rain pants, the Seek jacket, the Storm I had 2 Stormlight jackets that are all First Light, all ASAT, old school stuff, but all in really good condition. And to be honest with you, the ASAT Seek jacket has leaked since freaking day one. I sat in a boat, wasn't even moving around, right? Sat in a boat salmon fishing, getting freaking poured on for a couple hours. I start getting cold. I'm like, what the heck? And so I unzip my rain jacket, and I am just soaked. And it started soaking in through the zipper. And I don't know if anybody else has had that experience with the Seek jackets, but mine is reliably going to leak at the zipper every freaking time. And it just, so I figured I could wear 2 rain jackets. That didn't really work. It just, I could not keep the wetness off of me, and I couldn't keep my feet dry, despite buying brand new crispy Nevada GTXs. And the first set of those I had were perfectly waterproof. They were great, best boot I've ever had. So I just wanted to make that same purchase, and they're just not. I'm not getting the same results. And so me and Bubba both had new boots over there, and both of our boots leaked. Both of our rain gears leaked, and actually about 99% of the people we talked to, it didn't matter what rain gear you were wearing, everybody's leaked. And so I'm kind of struggling. Where do I go for good rain gear? Because if you're hiking around and you're moving around a lot and you're just not sitting in a spot and you're actually mobile and you're flexing the fabric of the rain gear here and there where you're bending over, you're whatever it may be, you're just mobile. I don't know if there's a rain gear out there that's going to keep you dry. We did talk to one dude who said his Sitka kept him dry, but there was another dude across the table for him where his Sitka did not keep him dry. So I really don't know. If you guys got any suggestions, let me know, because I'm looking for new freaking boots now, because I'm pissed off that my $450 boots are leaking, that my fancy expensive rain gear is trash. And honestly, I don't know where this hunt has me guessing what I should be using and stuff like that, because I'll straight up admit, I was flat out cold out there, and it was a suck fest, quite honestly. And I don't want to get too negative about anything here, but being really transparent, my gear straight up let me down. And as much as I do, testing and research, I didn't think it would be that bad. And my boots probably surprised me the most, especially since I'd worn those before and had really good success with them. And the quality on them was just not very good. The rind, like the rubber molding part on the toe, like on day 2, that was peeling off. They leaked multiple times on that hunt, and just really not happy with them. Honestly, I need to contact Crispy and either have them send me a new boot or send me my money back, because it's pretty BS. You spend that much money for a good boot, and I've got a pair of Hoffman 8-inch Explorers, but they're half a size too wrong. I got them half a size too small, and so I don't wear those. But those feel and wear like the nicest boot I've ever had, but they scrunch my toes up, and I can't wear them, especially when I'm going downhill. It just murders my feet. So I have really nice boots. I just can't wear them. So if anybody wants to trade me size 9.5 for size 9, let me know, because I might make that trade if they're the same boot. And these are like pretty much a 99% condition, 95% condition. But anyways, so back to the hunt. First evening, me and my stepdad get there. We see... we do like 13 miles, and we do 13 miles. No, it was the first morning. We do 13 miles, and we see, I think, 6 or 7 bucks and like 30 deer. And I'm thinking, hell yeah, we're seeing lots of deer, lots of bucks. Eventually, and all of them were absolute dinks. None of them were shooters. None of them would have been shooters on any given day, even on the last day standing on the road. None of them would have been ones that you would have drove 14 hours for to take home. I would have felt guilty shooting any of them. And so, obviously not what we're looking for, but I'm thinking, if there's this many bucks here, there's this many does here, eventually, if I just keep pounding this area, I'm going to find a good buck. And I'm not running into a lot of boot traffic. Actually, the only tracks we actually ran into were Bubba's, and they were way the hell back in there. My cousin Bubba, they were way the hell back in there. And so we basically found out the day prior he made the same hunt. And and they didn't see hardly. They saw a few deer, but they didn't see as many as we did. And so we decided the next morning to hunt together, me and my cousin, and go way back in there again. And that's when he shot that 4-point with a cheater. I saw another couple of small bucks, packed that one out, and then basically kept hunting the same area. And boy, we just got our freaking butts handed to us. We'd see 2 or 3 bucks a day. Every single buck would be a dink. I mean, every buck would be just smaller than the does. I mean, just like a first year able to produce an antler on top of his head. I mean, or just like the tiniest little fork. And we started having more hunters kind of move in our area, and they were shooting the little bucks. Even 5 miles deep, they were shooting the little bucks. I'm like, man, So we start talking to some of these folks, and kind of like, what are you seeing? Here's what we're seeing. Obviously we're hunting the same area, so there's not really that many secrets here. But there's obviously a lot of deer and a lot of little bucks, but I'm not seeing any big bucks. And that was the story from across the board. People would ask us, we would talk to other people at a store we'd go to and eat lunch, and everybody was saying the same thing. Where's the big bucks? There's no big bucks. We're just seeing, 3 to 6 tiny deer a day, and tiny bucks a day. An average of 20 deer to 30 deer a day was what we were running into. And even guys on horseback that we saw had a decent, 3x4, not a big buck, not one that you'd want to go over there and shoot, 6 miles deep, but a decent 3x4. And they rode in 8 miles and then did like another few miles on their feet. And they went in some really nasty, gnarly terrain. And they weren't seeing anything big either. That was actually the biggest buck they'd saw. And they'd also shot a small little, like blacktail sized 3-point. And I mean, it was just a dink. And so, after talking to guys like that, I'm like, man, I'm starting to feel better about the lack of success. I know that probably sounds bad, but I'm sure you guys can relate. You go on a hunt, you get your ass kicked, you start talking to other hunters for like validation that you're not a shitty hunter. Hopefully they're having a bad hunt too, and that validates that you're not the shittiest hunter in the woods. And kind of like through other people's struggle, I started to feel better about myself. Maybe you can't relate to that. Maybe I'm just a piece of shit. But and I'm not wishing bad on anybody, but through other people having the same experience I am, and everybody else was putting forth a pretty good effort. I'd say that we were definitely putting forth a more than average, very more than average. We're probably putting 50% more than everybody else, at least. And we were having the same success. And so I'm just thinking, I'm doing everything I can do. I can change areas, but the guys that we're talking to up high are saying the same exact stuff that we're seeing. Just the big bucks aren't moving yet. And even up high, 8,000 feet, even where they got fresh snow, they were starting to see some nicer bucks, but nothing worth shooting. And just really weird. I thought that definitely would have got the bucks going, and it just didn't. And either they were moving or they just weren't there. And so, it got to the point where, I'm probably 40 miles worth of walking. Jeff is I feel like I'm keeping us there because he doesn't care. He's willing to go whenever. He's willing to shoot a small buck. He doesn't really care. He just wants to go out and hunt and enjoy the woods. And I'm just kind of grinding away, trying to find something that I'm wanting to take home. And so we kind of take an easy day. The morale is pretty low. We go, we have lunch, we eat good food. I dry my boots off in the truck, and I'm wearing my tennis shoes, and I'm trying to dry my boots out because they're soaking freaking wet. And I'm thinking, man, we're walking a long ways, and there's a river near where we're hunting, and you can glass back across into some of the drainages that you have to hike your ass off into. And I'm like, if I could spot a buck or a big buck from here, I could just cross the river. And so really kind of a lazy way to hunt, but kind of a smart way to hunt. So you're basically just glassing 2 to 3 miles, at least 2 miles. I would say a mile in some spots. I'm kind of backsliding here. A mile in some spots, but up to 3 miles away using a spotting scope, and you're glassing basically from the side of a road from a truck across the river into drainages. Well, I started spotting deer. I started spotting quite a few deer, spotted some elk, even spotted an elk shed. Nice one. And keep in mind, the rain hasn't really stopped for 2 or 3 days now, and so where guys were crossing the river. I'm like, it still looked like it was crossable, but I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. But I had waders just in case. And so I spot this buck that looks pretty damn good. And he's with another buck, and he's probably 2 to 2.5 miles away, somewhere in there. And I could see he has a pretty tall rack. I could definitely see he had horns pretty easily. And I'm like, man, that has to be a pretty good buck if I could see that far away he's a buck. And so I start making a play. I'm like, be an easy hike. If I kill him, it's all downhill. The only pain in the ass part would be basically getting him across the river with waders. And I have trekking poles, which I forgot at camp. And so this might be a kind of a circus, but I'm going to try and get across anyways. Well, Jeff drops me off. I grab my waders, I grab my pack, I grab my gun, and I start putting my waders on, and I'm looking. I'm like, this river looks like it's going to be sketchy, but I'll try it anyways. I've got the chest-high waders, and my first time ever freaking wearing them, and strap my boots over my neck and start making my way across. I make it about a third of the way across, and I start getting a little sketched out. I make it another little ways. I'm pretty much halfway across the river, and it's trying to push me downriver. I mean, it is not very deep, but it is really swift. It's really deceiving how much that current really pushed against you. It didn't look like it would be that big of a deal to cross, but I mean, every time I took a step, I was almost eating shit and swimming. I mean, it was pretty bad, and it's up past my knees at this point. And I think the waders actually made it worse because more pressure against the legs. The waders were catching more water, and I think maybe that wasn't helping too. But I mean, the water was definitely up, and it was definitely way more swift than it was 2 days prior. And so I even though I tried, I couldn't make it across, and I came back. And I just wanted to give maximum effort every day. If and to be truthfully honest, that day I did. I mean, I literally tried to cross a freaking river that was way too sketchy to cross. Came back, and I felt good. Like, hey, you know what? I was willing to do it. I tried to do it. I couldn't do it. It wasn't safe, first of all, but I was willing to do it, and I was willing to put up the effort. And so I get back to the truck. I put the spot and scope back on him. I'm like, do I need to go after this buck tomorrow? And I get the spot and scope back on him, and finally I can get a really good view against the base of his tree because he's bedded down. And I get a really good view of him, and he's a fairly tall, absolute narrow fork and horn, and he's pretty much a dink. So I got a really good look at him, and he was probably like a 14-inch wide, 13-inch tall, 14-inch tall fork and horn, and just a first-year forky. And so was his buddy. And I'm glad I didn't cross the river because I would have gone over there and I would have shot him because I put in the work to go shoot him. So I'm glad I didn't shoot him, and I'm glad I didn't make it across the river. But long story short, I mean, I was pretty low at this point. I was starting to see the weather because when we left Roseburg, keep in mind we live over here on the Oregon coast. I left deer hunting right when it was starting to get hot over here. Drove over to Idaho to go shoot a big muley. Well, I start getting some updates from my buddies, and they're starting to put some bucks down on the ground, and a couple of them are shooting some good bucks. And I'm like, crap, they're like, yeah, the rut's kicking off. It's doing nothing but raining. It's perfect. And it's just perfect time to kill a big blacktail. And so I'm like, crap, I'm all the way over in Idaho, and now the freaking blacktail rut's kicking off, and I'm not seeing shit worth shooting over here. And I'm like, I just need to temper my expectations. I need to just go have fun, and I need to shoot the first buck that gets me excited. Whether it's big, whether it's small, I just need to go back to enjoying the woods and just temper my expectations. I'm not going to shoot a freaking dink because I don't want to do that. But I'm going to shoot the first decent buck that walks out. And so I hunted another couple days. I hiked up 2 hours before daylight into a spot where I'd passed up that big, 150-inch, not really big, but 150-inch 4-point 2 years prior. And I just really like that area because it's so brushy. A buck a buck could be coming out of anywhere in there, and there's just a bunch of finger drainages that kind of come together. There's almost like a creeky pasture area down in the bottom, and there's a lot of little glassing knobs, and there's a nice set of rocks where I can just sit and glass. I can get out of the wind. I'm protected somewhat from the rain, and it's just a perfect little honey hole. And so I sat there, and then I went down over the ridge, and the weather just let me freaking have it. I got up. I started hiking an hour and a half before daylight. I got in there 3.5 miles before daylight, and got into my spot and built a fire. The wind started picking up about 40 miles an hour, steadily 30, gusts of about 40. It was anywhere in between there, and then it was 39 degrees with a solid rain. So pretty freaking miserable. I mean, you could glass, but you couldn't glass very well because the wind was blowing you all over, and you'd get so cold that you couldn't glass for more than about 5 minutes at a time. And so I built a fire and ended up basically I'd sit next to the fire for 20 minutes, go glass for 5, and I did that for hours. And just trying to get as much glassing time. And every time I glassed, I saw deer. I mean, every time. Didn't see any. I saw 2 bucks, 2 absolute dinks. I think one was a spork and one was a spike. Probably saw 30 deer doing that. The deer were moving, but you just physically couldn't deal with the cold, and it was just an absolute suck fest. And so I went over and I just got so cold. I got so close to my fire. I burnt my rain gear, burnt my bino harness, burnt part of my strap on my pack, and I burnt part of my gaiters, I think. So I was just having a hard time staying warm. And keep in mind, my rain gear isn't doing that great of a job of keeping me dry, right? And my boots aren't dry, and so it's just really hard to stay warm. And so I ended up staying up there all day. I trust me, I didn't feel like it, but I did. I wanted to push myself mentally and physically. That day was more of a mental push, and I stuck it out, and it was probably a stupid decision because realistically, I mean, you're hunting a fifth of the time, and you're getting warm most of the time, and so I was just thinking about that. I made a few phone calls, talked to my wife. I was like, talked to my dad, and I was like, I just don't know what I should do. Should I just kill the next buck I see? Should I stick it out? I saw a buck get shot right up the hill for me. It was just a dink. But guys are shooting all the bucks that I'm passing up, and I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake. And basically decided to, if I ended up shooting one of those little bucks, first of all, I wouldn't feel good about it. You're not getting enough meat, in my opinion, for me personally. If you shoot little bucks, I don't really care. I'm not going to push my beliefs on anybody else, but this juice isn't worth the squeeze. And I honestly, honest to God, I feel bad. I really do feel bad. I feel bad killing. Best way I can describe it is just adolescent baby deer, just deer that don't know that you are even hunting them. Basically, it's just a whole different. It's not that I'm better than anybody. It's just a whole different game. It's not a challenge. There's not a lot of meat. The math just doesn't add up for me. If that's what you're into, then go ahead and knock them down. I'll leave them for you all day. It's just not what I'm into. And I felt like that to me would have been taking the easy way out, because seeing 3 bucks a day, it would have been the easy way out. Honestly, it really would have been. I mean, you could have shot one every morning, and definitely closer to the truck than where I was hunting. And so there's some other factors too. So I've said it. I wanted to push myself mentally. I wanted to push myself physically, and I felt like I did pretty damn good physically. However, mentally, I felt like I was pretty weak. I was turning into a kind of a negative Nancy there for a while, and I was complaining to myself a lot, and then I kind of found myself complaining to Jeff, like, where's all the freaking deer, and I hated the thought of bringing somebody else down, kind of like being that crab in the pot. And so I tried really hard to stay mentally focused and positive, especially when around Jeff, even though he was just there to have a good time, to get away from work and shoot a deer and So I just, I don't know, man. I just wasn't as happy with myself as I thought I was going to be. I went to the gym all year, and I wasn't as happy as I thought I'd be physically. My cousin Bubba, he doesn't go to the gym. He's pretty much a cowboy redneck, and I think he did better than I did packing out. I mean, I pushed the pace for a while, and then when he took the lead, I could barely keep up with him. My knee and my hip were really bothering me for some reason, and I don't know why. Especially the downhill, my left knee, and I never had a problem at the gym. I never wounded or injured myself throughout any of the hunting seasons I'd been on prior. But my knee going downhill, my left knee, man, oh shit, that hurt. Especially when packing out his buck. I mean, we both had, and I probably had 60, 65 pounds. I don't know what, somewhere in there. And it was, by the way, it was the biggest body buck I've ever seen. I mean, it was well over 200 pounds. It was a giant deer. I mean, I took some pictures of just the body of it. And of course, the pics don't do it justice, but we got every scrap of meat off that thing. And Bubba's pack was heavier than mine. Mine was 65 pounds and 65-ish. And, God dang, that was a big body deer. And it wasn't even an old deer either. It was just a big boy. It was just a really healthy, probably a 3 or 4-year-old buck. And boy, what did my right hip, like hip joint socket, and then my left knee definitely felt that coming out. And then intermittently, it sucked. I mean, honestly, going downhill absolutely sucked. And even with the trekking poles, that definitely helped. And by the way, the trekking poles were probably my best idea of bringing, period. I've heard a lot of guys use them. I've never used them. I've made fun of them like everybody else has. But they were actually the best investment I made into this whole hunt. I was able to go faster, go farther, and it was less effort. And so those are all three things that if you can get those and keep the weight under a pound, that's a freaking win. And it doesn't take up much room. They're super light. And they help me hunt harder and go farther and save effort, everything. So having those for packing out, but also having those just for packing was really nice. And so I would suggest if you're going to be hunting some steep stuff that's really open, if you're hunting in the brushy areas, I wouldn't even worry about it because just using trekking poles in brushy areas doesn't, for me, it sucked. But when you're open and you're hiking and you can get clear, unobstructed like use of your trekking poles, boy, it was nice. It was really nice. And I just bought the ones from Costco. Like, I don't know, $35, something like that. They're not like super nice, but they're not bad. I mean, they're probably middle of the line and holy crap, those trekking poles saved my life. And so so I honestly, going to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, every week, all year up until hunting season, up until late August. And then obviously, I hadn't gone to the gym till late August, so I had lost quite a bit of the gains because I was busy hunting. I didn't have time to go to the gym. I'm sure I lost some of the gains, but I felt like I should have done better. I felt like my body should have reacted better to the adversity I was putting it through. And I just felt like I could have handled the adversity better mentally too. And I'm really going to work on that. And so I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to, when I started getting negative, I just kept telling myself to quit being a fucking pussy and just suck it up. And no one's going to hunt harder than me. I may not be successful, but no one's going to hunt harder than me. And people may be hunting smarter than I am because they have horses or side-by-sides or whatever, but no one's going to put in more effort than me on this mountain right here. I'm going to be the guy that puts in the most effort, whether it makes sense or not. And so I did that. And I can honestly say that I'm proud of, but it didn't produce anything. And so we decided to kind of hunt a little different road system about a half a mile from where we had been hunting. My legs had just been beat to death for 6 days practically. And so I wanted to hunt a flatter, easier area to hunt that looked good. They'd been getting the crap beat out of it by other hunters, but we'd been hearing a lot of gunshots coming off from over in this area. And so let's go check it out, right? And so me and Jeff get up, and we immediately there's another dude that pulls up behind us about a half hour before daylight, gets out, talks to us. There's headlamps about 2 miles up top of the right ridge. And just basically, here comes all the hunters that we had been seeing. And so we got in there and let the guy know what our plan was. And he said he was going to kind of work the other side of the basin. So he's only going to be, 500, 600 yards from us, paralleling us, which is fine. It's public land, but it's just not ideal. And so we get in there and we start seeing deer, more deer, little buck, really little buck. And at this point, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to I just want to have fun. I just want to shoot the next buck that gets me excited. And, it doesn't have to be a big buck. If I just get excited when I see it, I want to shoot it. And so we run across a herd of like 9 or 10. There's a small spike or fork in that one. Pass on that little guy. Keep coming down. We're about 1.5 miles in. And immediately I look across, and there's a buck staring at me. And I pull the binocs up, and I can see he's about to his ears, and he's taller than his ears. And he's got a good posture. He just looked like he was a good buck. And so it kind of got me excited. And so I Jeff was just used to me passing up bucks. And so I pull up the binos. I'm like, yep, that's him. Boom. Basically, I'm like, I'm going to shoot that buck. And he's like, I felt like he's like probably shocked I was going to shoot that buck. But because I'd passed up, this, to be honest with you, this was the 16th buck of the trip. Okay. Bubba's was the biggest. And I might have shot it, might not have shot it, probably would have passed. I definitely would have passed on him if Bubba was with me because it would have been his best mule deer. And it was pretty deep for how big it was. I mean, it was a good buck, but it just wasn't what I was there for. However, this was the second biggest buck to Bubba's, and it was only a fork and horn. It was a nice fork and horn, granted, but it wasn't like what I went there for. But after being there, it's exactly what I was wanting to be able to go home. And so as soon as I pulled up my binos, I'm like, buck, I'm shooting that buck. And then so I get down. He's 311 yards away. We're working our way down a really steep hill, and he's across on this other hill going up. And so how am I going to get a freaking rest? And so I put my pack down. I put my gun on top of my pack. I extend my bipods out. And I can't get low enough. And so I lay down onto the hill. I pull the pack farther up on me, and I'm basically doing the beginning part of a crunch and trying to steady my gun, and it steadies. My gun's all fogged up. That's another thing. Like I said, I've got so much gear on this hunt that failed me. My scope was another thing. And by the way, I sent my scope in after I got home, and I'm looking at my new Viper PST Gen 1. They sent me a refurbished basically a brand new one to replace the model that I sent them. So thank you, Vortex, for doing that. But honestly, it sucks I had to send it back because it almost cost me $2 this year. The scope, basically, the pressure was lost, the air or whatever, the argon gas or whatever they put in there. To keep it from fogging up had leaked out, and then condensation and water was getting in there, right? And so it looked like I had water droplets on the outside of my scope when really they were on the inside, and it looked like I was shooting through fog, really thick fog. But I was able to find the deer easily, and I was able to steady the rifle enough I was comfortable taking a shot, and I shot him. I hit him. I'm not sure if this shot hit him in low in the shoulder, or it had to hit him low in the shoulder because he went uphill about 3 more steps, and as I was squeezing, he kind of turned to where he was facing straight away, and I just pulled the shot straight up. That second shot was just a horrible shot, and so I was like, quit doing that, you freaking idiot! Like, execute a good shot. And so I racked another one in, and by this time now he's facing the other direction, and I have a broadside shot, kind of quartered away shot, and I take a deep breath, and I just have it on him. My crosshairs are finally starting to get steady again because I'm still doing a crunch, right? So I'm starting to get a little shaky on my midsection there, but touch went off, and immediately I'm like, that's it. And then I hear the whop, and then he goes down immediately. And I'd shot I think the top of his heart out on that second shot, and I was kind of low in the shoulder on the first shot, so I'd barely missed most of the vitals on the first shot. I mean, I kind of clipped a lung, but it didn't put him down. And the second shot, the third shot, second shot I missed. The third shot was right through the heart, top of the heart, just barely ruined the top of the heart. And he went down immediately on that shot, shooting a 308, 150 grain SST, and been my most deadly gun that I've ever owned. And was actually really proud of the shooting, because I've said it a million times. With a garbage, and even though that wasn't offhand, to me, that's pretty much offhand. I wasn't using the pack that much to shoot 312 yards or whatever it was. I was actually able to steady and execute two good shots out of 3 and hit them really good. Those bullet holes were about 2 inches apart, which is pretty cool. I was pretty proud of that. And go up there, and I tell Jeff, I'm like, he's so close. If I could drag him down to the road that we're on, or in the bottom, I could drag him down to the bottom, and then I could pack him out by myself. I'm like, you just go fill your tag. I know you're going to shoot the next thing you see anyways, probably. And so I get up to my buck, and I literally get up to my buck, and then I hear a gunshot. And I'm like, oh, wow, that didn't take him long. And so I drug him down to the road, took care of him, took a few pics, did the gutless method, loaded him up in my pack, and then waited a little while because I figured Jeff would either come back and get me or whatever, and he never did. And so I came back to the truck. It was a 1.5 mile walk back to the truck, easy walk, and was just really happy. I mean, it wasn't a big buck, but I felt really good about the effort I put out. I did try to kill a mature buck. This was a young buck. I try not to do that. But this buck, he wasn't hanging around. He knew what was going on. Maybe it sounds like I'm trying to justify it, but I mean, everything a big buck would have done, he didn't hang around very long. I had to put a bullet in him really quickly, or else he was going to get away. And his neck was a little swelled up, but I think he was kind of cruising for does, and we caught him coming over this big opening over a big knob, and laid the hammer down on him, and it just. There was so much to be thankful and proud for, that, I gave the effort. I passed up 15 bucks, before I shot this one. I did. I put in a lot of miles, and I made a good shot, and got to share that moment with my stepdad, and I think that was actually the first buck he's ever seen me shoot. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think him and I. And it's not for any good or bad reason. It's just we've never had that opportunity together. And so that was really cool, being able to share that moment with him. And so I go back to the truck, and then I go and I drop the deer off, hang him up using the bro bags, which, by the way, the bro bags are way too big for deer. They're designed for elk, obviously, but they work for deer. But those bro bags were pretty badass. Really bad. I really like them. Having reusable bags, I mean, if you use them for a couple of years and you kill, a handful of animals, they're going to pay for themselves eventually. If you keep good care of them, you keep them out of the fire, you don't cut or puncture them, they're going to last a long time. And I'm actually really happy with them. And they're strong, man. They're strong. I'm not easy on my gear. I've said that a million times, and I wasn't easy on these game bags. I put some of the biggest elk quarters, elk hinds I've ever seen in these things, hung them up. I mean, they did just fine, and they hung up all year. Washed them, they did fine there too, and yeah, that was a good purchase. I'm really happy with those. And so, anyways, I wait back at the truck. I go and I grab a couple mountain houses. So I was trying to have food ready for Jeff when he got back to the truck. Didn't know. I figured he'd make a trip back, and then we could go back and get the buck if he got one. And so he comes back a while later. Don't see any rack, don't see any meat, no bloody back, no nothing. And he said he shot at a nice 3-point and never hit it and couldn't get back on it. And so, but he was happy. He had a chance at a good buck, bigger buck than I shot, but wasn't a giant buck. He said he figured best he could figure was 17, 18 inches, and just like a big blacktail size buck. And was just happy and was ready to go home if I was ready. And so we did. And we had I think we ate at this little store, and he'd been wanting to eat these. What were they? It was like a nacho. It was some sort of funny name nacho, but it was like Muy Grande or nachos, like some big ass nacho meal, and probably not the best best idea when you're going on a road trip to eat big ass thing of nachos. But we did, and we had a great time, and we I filled my tag, and I've got some things I personally need to work on. I need to work on lower body knee. So I've been doing a lot since the hunt has been over. I've been going back to the gym. I've been doing more deadlifts, more squats. Just kind of really trying to figure out what I need to do to work my knee better. I wasn't really happy with my. I did better than I've ever done lower body this year. Again, I feel like I still have to work at it to keep up with like Anthony or even Bubba, who doesn't work out. The guy's a freak. The freak of nature. I don't know how he hikes like that with meat on his back without training or anything. The guy's a freak of nature. So it's just crazy. I work out like I do, and I'm still barely able to keep up with him, and he's got a big ass chew in. It's like, come on, man. Makes me feel like a giant pile of shit. But and everybody's got friends like that. Anthony doesn't deserve the leg strength he's got, but he's got it. Like, he doesn't do anything to earn it. He just naturally has freaking strength in his legs. The guy's a mule. And even Mitch, my hunting partner Mitch, all these guys can outpack me, and it drives me nuts. Brad Powell, another guy. That guy's freaking a savage when it comes to putting meat on his back. It's like if there was an Olympic, those guys would be all on like an Olympic team for meat packing, and I'd be on the sidelines cheering them on. So that's one thing that bothers me every year. I just need to get better at packing meat. And I've been doing a lot of core strength, and just really focusing on lower and mid body strength. And I've been really happy with the results I've been getting so far. I've already gotten stronger there. I had to gain back some of what I lost, but that's, Idaho. What I wanted to do was find out, I guess I succeeded in more ways than one, even though I wasn't happy with the way my body performed. I succeeded in ways where I exposed my weaknesses and I know my strengths, and now I can strengthen my weaknesses and focus on those and continue to build my strengths and try and get better in those areas. But now I know where to focus my time at the gym, or focus my time behind the gun or behind the bow or with a pack. I need to make some adjustments to my pack. I'm going to put electrical tape around the frame so it quits creaking, kind of thing, when you're walking. I saw some guys posting about that, and they were doing electrical tape around the frame. So I need to do that. I need to move my pack bag up higher on the frame because it's just sitting a little too low. So I exposed some flaws. I definitely found out what gear didn't work. So just kind of give a rundown of that. There was my rifle scope, my sleeping bag, my tent, my wall tent door doesn't zip. My sleeping bag quit zipping. My boots leaked. My rain gear didn't work. There's other things too, but there was just a laundry list full of shit that went wrong, and I really do need to figure that stuff out. And so a new tripod. I need a new tripod now. So so I've got some more research to do. I've got some more money to spend, but I absolutely love how beautiful Idaho is, and being able to share it with my stepdad. He went 2 years ago on a late season archery hunt with me. We didn't kill anything. I passed up a few dinks, went home empty handed, but had a great time. This year we went back, and we got to bring home a deer. We got to spend some serious time together, and I had a lot of really interesting conversations that him and I've never had to have before. And I just really enjoyed it, and met some really cool people, some really nice people, and even met some guys, met some local guys over there, and they knew who we were. We knew who they were, and it's just a small world, man, really small world. But so that's my Idaho trip. We didn't come home empty-handed, but Idaho, I would give it 2 dubs versus 2 L's for us, and I'm going back, man. I've got the bug. I just want to go back, and I want to kill a big ass mule deer, and I'm willing to work for it. So I'm not going to go to the same unit. I'm putting in for different units now. I have decided that this unit just doesn't have the quantity of the quality that I want, and so whether I have to go to Idaho in a different capacity or a different unit, I'm totally fine with that. And so I'm back to the drawing board. I feel comfortable that I could go there literally every year and kill a buck pretty much every day if I wanted to. But they're just not the size and the quality that I want. And the hunting, there's a lot of hunting pressure over there too. But anyways, that's Idaho, guys, and that was tag number 4 out of 4 so far. I've got one more tag to fill. That was my blacktail tag, and that'll be the next hunt recap that I do next week. And I appreciate you guys listening to this. It's another 45-minute episode of me just talking and blabbing and a little bit of bitching. And I hope you guys don't mind. I actually got quite a few positive comments about the antelope trip. So if you guys liked this one, let me know. If you didn't, let me know, because I want to come out with shit you guys want to listen to, right? So there will be no guest on the next one either. It will be just me going over my blacktail season. Maybe I'll get Brad Powell on here. I don't know. He's warming up to the microphone, I can tell, and the camera. I never thought I'd see it, but he actually had the idea of filming spring bear hunts this year. So I never thought I'd hear those words come out of his mouth. Let's film a hunt. So he's a very introverted guy, and and I think he's finally warming up to the mic and to the camera. So I hopefully we'll be getting him more on some of the media that we come out with in the content. But yeah, it'd be cool to have him on here. But outside of that, guys, I really do appreciate you listening. This Thanksgiving, I had a great one, and I am truly, I know it sounds corny as shit, I am thankful for everybody that listens to this podcast. I've made some friends that started off as listeners, and now we talk, we text, we keep each other apprised of our hunts. I'm grateful for you guys, and it, I never thought anybody would ever want to listen to me talk or listen to a conversation of me with somebody and just actually take the time and write the nice comments and to say the nice things you guys do. Some of you are probably full of shit, but I honestly think that there's a really cool community behind this podcast, and I do enjoy talking with you guys through Messenger and Instagram and whatever it may be. I don't get anything for emails, but yeah, through the social media platforms, I get quite a few comments, and like 99% of it. Actually, pretty much all of it, 100% of it's been pretty damn positive. And so I even ask for negative, and I don't get negative. So prove me wrong. Give me some negative. Give me some constructive criticism. If you guys have ideas, anything that you guys want to hear about or talk about, freaking let me know. I'm happy to do it. So outside of that, guys, I appreciate you for listening. Sorry for the long soapbox at the end there. But I really do appreciate you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.